Did you know that refrigerating the wrong vegetable could quietly raise your cancer risk by up to 39%? That's right. According to research cited by the FDA, when starchy vegetables like potatoes are stored in the fridge, their starch turns into sugar, and when cooked, forms acrylamide, a chemical linked to nerve damage and cancer in animal studies. And it doesn't stop there. Garlic. When stored cold, it sprouts and loses its powerful heart-protective compound allicin. Carrots. If you store them wrong, they can lose 30% of their beta-carotene, robbing your eye's immune system and skin of crucial antioxidant support. If you're over 60, these losses aren't just nutritional. They can silently push you toward fatigue infections or worse. And most seniors have no idea their refrigerator is working against their health. So before we dive into the essential list of veggies, you should never refrigerate. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to Senior Life. This one small click could help someone avoid a major health mistake. Right now, I'm going to help you uncover 7 everyday foods, ones that almost always show up in your fridge, that may actually be doing more harm than good when stored cold. And I'm pretty sure number 3 is going to surprise you. Right now, let's start with the first vegetable you should never store in the fridge: potatoes. You might think storing potatoes in the fridge is harmless, but science says otherwise. In fact, it could quietly increase your cancer risk by up to 39% and worsen nerve problems in older adults. Back in 2002, scientists in Sweden first discovered that cooking certain foods, especially cold-stored potatoes at high temperatures, could produce acrylamide, a potentially toxic chemical. Since then, the U.S. Food and Drug Administration (FDA) and National Cancer Institute (NCI) have confirmed that acrylamide forms in starchy foods like fries, chips, and roasted potatoes, especially when these are stored in the refrigerator beforehand. According to the FDA's risk assessment report, acrylamide has been shown to cause cancer in animals, and while human data is still developing, there's enough concern that it's now classified by the International Agency for Research on Cancer (IARC) as a probable human carcinogen. In fact, some studies suggest acrylamide exposure may raise the risk of nerve damage, memory problems, and even blood sugar instability, all major issues in adults over 60. Here's a number that really shocked me. In one long-term dietary study by the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition, people in the top 20% of acrylamide intake had up to 39% higher risk of certain types of cancer compared to those in the bottom 20%. Now let's make this real. I once treated a patient named Linda, a 71-year-old retired teacher from Arizona. She loved roasted potatoes, had them every weekend. But she always kept her potatoes in the fridge, thinking it kept them fresh. Over time, she developed subtle neuropathy, pins and needles in her feet, and prediabetes. Blood work showed nothing alarming but diet history that told a different story. We cut the cold-stored potatoes, switched her to boiling and steaming, and within a month her fasting blood sugar dropped by 12 mmol, and those tingling sensations started fading. No meds, just better food habits. So why are potatoes such a problem when stored cold? Here's the science in plain English. Cold temps convert amylopectin starch into glucose and fructose. When you cook these sugars at high heat above 248 degrees, 120 degrees, they react with asparagine, forming acrylamide. The darker and crispier the potato, the higher the acrylamide. Yes, that golden brown crust you love might not love you back. And it's not just nerves and cancer we're worried about. In older adults, acrylamide exposure has also been linked to slower reaction times, reduced insulin sensitivity, and oxidative stress, which accelerates aging in tissues like your brain and heart. What can seniors and middle-aged adults do? Here are 5 simple tips I give my patients Store potatoes in a pantry. Cool, dark, and dry. Ideal temp around 50 degrees. 10 degrees, not your fridge. Boil or steam them instead of roasting or frying. Less browning, less acrylamide. Skip the fries. Fast food fries contain some of the highest acrylamide levels. The FDA found acrylamide levels up to 1/200 ug. In some samples, that's 3x the average adult daily intake. Check your potatoes. If they look green or sprouted, toss them. That's a sign of solanine, another compound that can cause nausea, confusion, and dizziness. Add antioxidants to your meals, veggies like broccoli, or herbs like turmeric, which help reduce oxidative damage caused by acrylamide exposure. And a word for the 40 and 50-somethings out there: don't wait until the symptoms show up. Prevention is always easier and cheaper than treatment. Small shifts in how you store and cook food can dramatically change your long-term health. The second vegetable you should never store in your fridge: garlic. Let me tell you about Raymond, a 72-year-old widower from Illinois. He's been managing high blood pressure for years and swore by garlic for heart health. Every morning he chopped up a clove and added it to his eggs. But over time, his blood pressure began creeping back up. When we talked about his diet, one thing stood out: he was storing his garlic in the fridge, thinking it helped it last longer. Here's what many people don't realize. When garlic is stored in the refrigerator, especially for more than a few days, it starts to sprout. And when it sprouts, it loses allicin, the key natural compound responsible for garlic's powerful anti-inflammatory, blood pressure lowering, and heart-protecting benefits. Allicin is also known for supporting the immune system and fighting oxidative stress. Two things older adults need more than ever. In a study published in the Journal of Nutrition, researchers found that allicin-rich garlic extract reduced systolic blood pressure by up to 10 micrototonards in older adults with uncontrolled hypertension. That's comparable to some prescription medications and without the side effects. Now think about this: if your garlic has lost its allicin because it's been chilling in your fridge too long, you could be missing out on one of the most affordable and accessible heart protectors available. Let's pause for a second. Have you ever noticed your garlic turning green in the center or sprouting a little tail? That's your sign it's past its peak and probably lost its healing punch. Back to Raymond. Once he stopped storing garlic in the fridge and began using fresh cloves kept in a dry cupboard, we rechecked his numbers after 6 weeks. His systolic pressure had dropped 7 points, and he said he felt more clear-headed and energetic in the mornings. Sometimes it's not about what medication you take, it's about what not to do in your kitchen. So here's what I recommend: store garlic in a cool, dry, and dark place, not the fridge. A small ceramic pot with air holes works great. Use fresh garlic within 7 to 10 days of breaking the bulb. Once cloves are separated, they lose potency faster. Crush or chop garlic and let it sit for 10 minutes before cooking. That activates the enzymes that produce allicin. Avoid pre-chopped garlic. In jars, they may last long, but most have little to no allicin left. And if you're middle-aged, now's the time to start thinking ahead. Garlic isn't just for flavor, it's for function. Think of it as nature's pharmacy, but only if you treat it right. Let's move on to the third vegetable one that I know is very familiar to all of us: cucumbers. That cold, soggy cucumber in your fridge. It may be doing more harm than good, especially if you're over 60. Now, cucumbers are often seen as the ultimate healthy snack, light, hydrating, crunchy. But what most people don't realize is how sensitive they are to cold. In fact, according to studies from the University of California Post-Harvest Center, cucumbers stored below 50 degrees turns 10 degrees Celsius for more than 3 days begin to show signs of chilling injury, meaning they bruise, go mushy, and lose key nutrients like vitamin K and certain enzymes. Vitamin K, which cucumbers naturally provide, plays a key role in blood clotting and vascular health. But when exposed to cold, that vitamin begins to degrade. A study published in Food Chemistry found that cold storage significantly reduced vitamin K levels in sliced cucumbers after just 5 days. And in older adults where circulation and clotting are already more fragile, that small change can lead to real consequences like easy bruising, slow wound healing, and poor circulation. Let's pause. Have you ever pulled a cucumber out of the fridge only to find it soft, watery, or with sunken spots? That's not just cosmetic. That's nutrient loss. So here's my advice, whether you're a senior or in your 50s, preparing for better aging store cucumbers at room temperature if you plan to eat them within 2 to 3 days. Keep them whole, unwashed, and in a breathable bag, not plastic. Excess moisture accelerates spoilage. Don't pre-slice. The minute you cut into a cucumber, you start the clock on nutrient loss. If your home runs hot, a wine fridge set around 55 degrees is a better option than a regular fridge. Add healthy fats like olive oil or avocado when eating cucumbers. This helps absorb the vitamin K they do have. And this isn't just about cucumbers. It's about protecting small, overlooked nutrients that matter more as we age. The fourth vegetable you should never store in the fridge: sweet potatoes. This surprises a lot of people. Sweet potatoes seem like the perfect food, full of fiber, antioxidants, and naturally sweet. But when stored cold, they go through a change that isn't so sweet for your health, especially if you're over 60. Here's what happens. When you put sweet potatoes in the refrigerator, their complex starches begin to break down into simple sugars like glucose and fructose. That might not sound terrible until you realize this can raise the glycemic index (GI) of the potato significantly. That means it hits your bloodstream faster, causing spikes in blood sugar and insulin, exactly what we don't want in older adults dealing with prediabetes, type 2 diabetes, or chronic inflammation. There's actual data behind this. A study published in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition showed that high GI foods were linked to a 21% increased risk of developing type 2 diabetes in older adults. Another report from the Harvard T.H. Chan School of Public Health emphasized that consistent blood sugar spikes, even from so-called healthy foods, can lead to long-term damage to blood vessels, kidneys, and the brain. Let me give you a real-life example. One of my longtime patients, Barbara, 66, from Kentucky, was trying to eat cleaner after being diagnosed with borderline diabetes. She swapped her white potatoes for sweet potatoes and thought she was doing everything right. But her morning blood sugar readings kept creeping up. Turns out she was baking sweet potatoes that had been sitting in the back of her fridge for over a week. They were soft, extra sweet, and loaded with fast-acting sugars from the cold storage. Once we changed that, buying fresh sweet potatoes, storing them in a dark pantry, and cooking them gently, her glucose levels stabilized within 2 months. Her energy came back, and so did her confidence in food again. Let's break down the solution. Never store sweet potatoes in the fridge. Keep them in a cool, dark spot like a kitchen cabinet or basket, ideally around 55 degrees, 13 degrees. Don't wait too long to use them. After 2-3 weeks, they start to sprout or turn mushy, which means more sugar, less fiber. Steam or roast them at lower temps, rather than frying or overbaking, which can caramelize the sugars even more. Pair them with a protein or fat, like grilled chicken or avocado, to slow down sugar absorption. Now, if you're in your 40s or 50s, this is your window to make small changes that protect your blood vessels and brain later on. These tiny shifts in food prep add up over time. Let me ask you something. Do you ever store sweet potatoes in the fridge without realizing the impact? Have you seen blood sugar readings go up even when you're trying to eat better? The fifth vegetable you should never store in the fridge: onions. According to the USDA and University of California's Agricultural Extension, refrigerating whole onions actually traps moisture around them. That excess humidity causes them to soften, sprout early, and worst of all, grow mold. And that mold doesn't always show up as visible fuzz. Sometimes it's deep inside the onion layers, invisible to the eye, but enough to trigger gut irritation gas and upset stomach, especially in seniors with reduced digestive enzyme activity. In fact, a study published in Mycopathologia found that certain molds commonly found on onions, like Aspergillus niger, can produce mycotoxins that irritate the gut and weaken the immune system. In younger people, this might pass unnoticed, but in someone over 60, it can mean days of discomfort, bloating, and vulnerability to infections. Let's pause for a second. Ever peeled an onion from your fridge and noticed it felt soft, slippery, or smelled off? That's your warning sign, and it's more common than you think. So what's the best way to handle onions, especially if you're over 60 or supporting an aging loved one? Here's what I recommend. Store whole onions at room temperature in a well-ventilated basket away from direct sunlight. Keep them dry. Moisture is the enemy. Don't wash them before storage. Never store onions next to potatoes. Potatoes release moisture and gas that make onions spoil faster. Once cut, store onions in an airtight glass container in the fridge and use them within 2 to 3 days. Watch for signs of spoilage, soft spots, green sprouts, off smells. Toss them out when in doubt. And for folks in their 40s and 50s, this is the kind of habit that seems small but has big long-term benefits. Preserving gut health isn't just about probiotics and supplements. Sometimes it's as simple as where you store your onions. The sixth vegetable you should never store in the fridge: pumpkin. Did you know that refrigerating pumpkin can cut its vitamin A content by over 30%, quietly putting your vision at risk, especially after age 60? This might sound like a small detail, but the way we store our food matters a lot more than most people think. Especially for seniors, where small nutrient losses can turn into real health concerns over time. Let's take a closer look at pumpkin and winter squash foods we often praise for being rich in beta-carotene, a precursor to vitamin A. But when you store them in the wrong environment, like a cold, damp refrigerator, they don't just lose texture. They lose their power. According to research from the University of California's Post-Harvest Center, storing pumpkins and winter squash below 50°C tender can lead to chilling injury, which softens the flesh, causes surface pitting, leads to water loss and cellular breakdown, and significantly reduces beta-carotene content. In one study published in the Journal of Food Composition and Analysis, researchers found that cold storage for 7 to 10 days reduced the beta-carotene concentration in squash by up to 32%. That's a massive loss, especially for seniors who rely on this vitamin to maintain healthy vision, immune function, and skin integrity. Let's connect this with real-world aging. As we age, our ability to convert beta-carotene into usable retinol, active vitamin A, declines. That's why older adults are at higher risk for dry eyes, reduced night vision, macular degeneration, slower healing, and weakened skin barrier. A landmark study from the National Eye Institute, part of the Age-Related Eye Disease Study AREDS, showed that older adults with low vitamin A levels had significantly higher rates of vision loss and retinal thinning. Notably, people with higher dietary intakes of carotenoids like beta-carotene had a 25% lower risk of age-related macular degeneration. That's no small statistic. That's the difference between independent living and losing your ability to drive at night. Practical solutions for better health. Here's how to keep your pumpkin and your eyesight strong. Store whole pumpkin and squash at 50 to 60 graden vorjinst, 10 to 15 degrees. This could be a cool pantry cellar or dry storage drawer. Avoid storing near ethylene-producing fruits like apples and bananas. This gas accelerates spoilage. Once cut, cook or refrigerate within 2 to 3 days in an airtight container. Don't leave it sitting exposed. Add healthy fats like olive oil, coconut oil, or grass-fed butter to pumpkin dishes. Vitamin A is fat-soluble, and you need fat for absorption. Choose deep orange varieties. The deeper the color, the more carotenoids per gram. And one more note. Don't confuse soft, watery pumpkin flesh with ripeness. That's often the first sign of nutrient breakdown, not a signal to eat it fast. The seventh vegetable you should never store in the fridge: avocados. This is a mistake I see way too often, especially in older adults trying to eat healthier. Let me explain why this matters. Avocados are rich in digestive enzymes, particularly lipase, which helps your body break down fats more efficiently. They're also packed with healthy monounsaturated fats, fiber, potassium, and antioxidants. But here's the catch: if you refrigerate them before they've ripened, the natural ripening process halts. The result? The flesh stays firm, flavor is bland, and those digestive enzymes never fully develop. Now let's talk about how that affects seniors. As we age, the stomach naturally produces less hydrochloric acid and fewer digestive enzymes. That's why older adults are more prone to bloating, slow digestion, and constipation. When you eat an avocado that hasn't properly ripened, meaning it's still tough, rubbery, and underdeveloped, your gut has to work extra hard to digest it. That can lead to gas, discomfort, or that rock in your stomach feeling. There's even research to back this up. A study published in the Journal of Nutrition and Food Sciences noted that enzyme activity in avocados increases dramatically during ripening at room temperature, but drops significantly if refrigerated too early. Another report by the University of California Agriculture and Natural Resources confirms that once an avocado is placed in the fridge, before ripening it may never ripen properly, resulting in texture issues and nutrient loss. Let me give you a real example. Mr. Tomlinson, 73, from Arizona, came to me with chronic bloating and a sense of heaviness after meals. He had been eating half an avocado every morning with toast. Seems harmless, right? But when I asked about his shopping and storage habits, he said I buy 'em hard, and green, put them straight in the fridge so they last longer. Boom. There's the issue. He was eating avocados that never fully ripened, hard to chew, tough to digest, and lacking the enzyme activity that makes avocados so gut-friendly in the first place. Once we changed that letting them ripen on the counter and only refrigerating once they were soft, his digestion improved in less than 2 weeks. No pills, just smarter handling. So how should you do it? Buy avocados slightly firm, but not rock hard. Let them ripen at room temperature, ideally on the counter near bananas, which release ethylene and speed ripening. Once ripe, they should give slightly. When pressed, you can refrigerate them for 2 to 3 days to slow spoilage. Never store unripe avocados in the fridge. This halts the softening process and locks in that raw texture. If you're unsure, cut one open. A perfectly ripened avocado will have a creamy texture and mild, nutty aroma. Underripe ones will be pale, stiff, and hard to scoop. And if you're in your 50s or 60s and starting to feel digestion slow down, small adjustments like this can make a big difference. Now here's the big picture. Your fridge isn't always your friend. For older adults, one small mistake in how you store your veggies could mean nutrient loss, gut issues, or even vision trouble down the line. But the good news, you can take back control. Right from your kitchen. Start checking how you store these 7 common foods. Let your avocado ripen, keep your potatoes out of the cold, and let your garlic stay bold. Small shifts lead to real results in your digestion circulation and long-term energy. If you found value in this, why not share it with a friend or loved one who's also looking to age stronger, smarter, and healthier? And don't forget to like, subscribe, and follow along with us here at Senior Life, where every food choice becomes a step toward better aging. Did you know, after the age of 60, the average person loses up to 15% of their leg strength in just 5 years without even noticing it? Even more shocking, according to the American Geriatrics Society, seniors lose 1 to 3% of muscle mass every single year. And it doesn't matter if you're eating well or staying active, it still happens. Quietly, steadily, until one day, you struggle to stand from your chair, you push your knees to lift yourself, you climb stairs, and it feels like you're lifting weights. And simply walking across the living room feels like crossing a mountain. Most people just chalk it up to aging. But here's the truth. This isn't just getting old. It's a clinical condition, an early sign of age-related muscle loss or sarcopenia. And by the time it becomes obvious, it's already robbed you of balance, independence, and strength. But here's the good news. This can be reversed. Clinical studies now show that by restoring just 3 essential vitamins, seniors can start rebuilding leg strength in just a matter of days. No intense workouts, no expensive therapies, just the right nutrients at the right time. And in this video, I'll walk you through the 3 critical vitamins almost every senior is missing, the real reasons behind weak, heavy legs, and how to rebuild your strength safely, naturally, and fast. This isn't hype. It's supported by research, real-life results, and decades of clinical experience. So before we dive in, do something powerful for your future health. Like this video, share it with someone who needs it, and don't forget to subscribe to Senior Life. Now, let's begin. Let's start with the first vitamin we're focusing on today, vitamin D3. What if I told you that the pain in your knees, the heaviness in your legs, and even your poor sleep might all be connected to just one missing nutrient? That nutrient is vitamin D3, and most seniors are running dangerously low on it. Vitamin D3 has long been known for its role in helping the body absorb calcium and strengthen bones. But for seniors, thinking of it as just a bone vitamin is a huge mistake. Vitamin D3 is actually a prohormone, a precursor to a hormone, and it helps regulate your entire neuromuscular system, including your muscular system, your peripheral nervous system, and your skeletal structure. Calling D3 the master switch isn't just a catchy phrase. From a neurological and muscular standpoint, vitamin D3 helps regulate how muscle cells handle calcium, which is essential for proper muscle contraction, so you can stand, walk, or climb stairs. Efficient nerve signaling, so your brain and limbs stay in sync. And reduced stress on joints by ensuring muscles pull their weight. Many older adults assume their knee pain, weak legs, or poor balance are just part of aging. But in more than 60% of my patients, what they're really experiencing is a breakdown in the nerve-muscle connection driven by a vitamin D3 deficiency. Specifically, motor neurons fire slower, reaction time drops, you trip more easily, muscle contraction weakens, you start using your hands to push off your knees. Balance becomes unstable due to poor coordination between the vestibular system, inner ear vision, and postural muscles. A 2015 study from the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition found that seniors with D3 levels below 20 ng/mL were 2.1 times more likely to lose balance than those with adequate levels. When your muscles aren't doing their job, your joints have to pick up the slack. And that's when you start to feel knee pain just from standing. Hip discomfort climbing stairs. Heel pain, especially first thing in the morning. This is why so many of my older patients tell me, "Doc, I'm not even walking that much, but just standing wears me out." If vitamin D3 deficiency goes unchecked, a dangerous cycle begins. Weak muscles, less movement, faster muscle loss, joint pain, instability, falls. And that's not the worst of it. A study published in the Journal of Gerontology linked chronic D3 deficiency with lower bone density in the hips, higher risk of fractures, loss of fast-twitch muscle fibers, poor reaction time, peripheral nerve inflammation, tingling, burning, or numbness in the feet and legs. Now let me tell you about someone I've worked with, Mr. Daniel L., age 68, a retired high school coach in Texas. He was always active, even played pickleball twice a week. But over the last 6 months, he noticed something odd. He had to push off the armrest to stand up. Climbing stairs took twice as long. He even slipped in his kitchen, thankfully, without serious injury. He came to my clinic worried he was just getting old. But after running blood work, his vitamin D level came back at 14 ng/ml. That's severely deficient. The optimal range is 30-50 ng/ml. We put him on 2,000 IU of D3 daily with breakfast. Within 2 weeks, he was back to standing up without using his hands. And in 1 month, he told me, "Doc, it's like someone turned the lights back on in my legs." According to guidelines from the Endocrine Society, most adults over 65 should aim for 800 to 2,000 IU of vitamin D3 daily. And yes, it should be vitamin D3 cholecalciferol, not D2. D3 is the form your body naturally produces and absorbs far better. Also, it should be taken with a fat-containing meal. Why? Because D3 is a fat-soluble vitamin, meaning it needs oil, avocado nuts, or eggs to be properly absorbed. Taking it on an empty stomach, you might be wasting your supplement. The second vitamin, vitamin B1. If your legs feel weak, your calves cramp often, and you're constantly tired even after rest, you could be missing a critical nutrient that fuels every single muscle contraction, vitamin B1. Vitamin B1, or thiamine, acts like the spark plug of your engine. It takes carbohydrates, your rice oats bread, and turns them into ATP, the basic form of energy your muscles and nerves run on. No thiamine. No spark. That means no smooth muscle movement, no quick recovery, and no real endurance. You might think B1 deficiency is rare in the developed world. But studies tell a different story. A report from the National Institutes of Health, NIH, shows that older adults are among the top at-risk groups for thiamine deficiency, especially those with heart failure. Many take diuretics. Type 2 diabetes, common users of metformin. Long-term use of acid-reducing drugs like PPIs. Diets low in whole grains, beans, or meats. A study published in the Journal of Clinical Medicine 2020 found that up to 25% of hospitalized seniors in the U.S. had borderline or deficient thiamine levels, often without being diagnosed. So what does thiamine deficiency look like in real life? It starts subtly. You feel low energy legs that feel heavy, or cramps that come out of nowhere. Breathing gets harder even after mild effort, what we call exertional fatigue. Eventually, you just stop moving as much, not from pain, but from pure exhaustion. A 2021 study from Tokyo University of Agriculture and Technology analyzed over 600 Japanese adults aged 65-85. They found that 30.4% were deficient in thiamine. Those with low levels were more likely to have slower walking speed, reduced grip strength, and report lower physical performance overall. After just 4 weeks of B1 supplementation, participants reported improved energy, longer walking distance before fatigue, fewer leg cramps, and better recovery after movement. Let me tell you about Ruth, a 76-year-old widow from Kansas City. She came to see me last year worried she was becoming lazy. Her words, not mine. She said I used to walk to the grocery store. Now I stop halfway and need a bench. My legs feel like cinder blocks. She wasn't eating poorly, she wasn't depressed, but she was on metformin and had been drinking 1-2 glasses of wine each night. Her blood work showed low thiamine, right around 50 nmol/mol, which is below the safe threshold of 70-180 nmol/mol. I started her on a 100 mg by 1 supplement, along with magnesium to help absorption. Within 10 days, her walking improved. By week 3, she told me I made it through the whole supermarket and didn't stop once. Why older adults lose B1 so easily. Let's get into the why now. Aging guts absorb thiamine less efficiently. The intestinal lining thins with age and stomach acid levels drop. Without enough acid, B1 isn't absorbed properly. Many common medications deplete thiamine. Diuretics like furosemide or HCTZ flush it out through urine. Metformin reduces absorption in the small intestine. Chronic use of antibiotics can disturb gut bacteria that help thiamine production. Alcohol, even small amounts, directly impairs B1 metabolism. Diets low in legumes. Seeds, pork, and whole grains also increase risk, especially in seniors who avoid carbs or follow restrictive diets. How much vitamin B1 do seniors need? According to the Institute of Medicine, IOM, the daily requirement for adults over 50 is about 1.2 mg/day day for men, 1.1 kg/day for women. But here's the thing. Those are minimums to prevent deficiency, not necessarily optimal levels for recovery or therapeutic effect. In clinical practice, 50-100 mg/day of supplemental B1 is commonly used short-term to support energy, especially in seniors with fatigue medication use or muscle loss. Thiamine is water-soluble, meaning your body flushes out the extra, so it's generally safe at moderate doses. But always check with your doctor first. Practical tips for boosting B1 naturally. Eat more foods rich in B1, pork, sunflower seeds, beans and lentils, oats and brown rice. Consider a B-complex supplement if you're on multiple meds or eating less than usual. Limit alcohol, even small amounts can interfere with B1 usage. The final vitamin we're focusing on vitamin B12. 1 in every 4 adults over 60 has dangerously low vitamin B12, and most of them have no idea. But the signs are right in front of them: weak legs, numb feet, brain fog, and unexplained fatigue. Vitamin B12, also known as cobalamin, is essential for the health of your nerves, red blood cells, and brain. It helps your body build myelin, the protective sheath around nerves that keeps signals fast and accurate, like insulation on an electrical wire. It also plays a vital role in DNA synthesis, energy metabolism, memory, mood, and concentration, nerve-to-muscle communication. That's why it's often referred to as the bridge between your brain and your body, especially your legs and feet. When B12 levels drop too low, the nerves begin to misfire or fail to fire at all. The result: delayed reaction times, tingling feet, muscle weakness, poor balance, and mental decline. Let's start with the data. According to the U.S. National Health and Nutrition Examination Survey, NHANES, up to 20% of adults over age 60 have marginal or deficient B12 levels, and among people over 75, that number climbs above 25%. Yet many of these cases go undetected. Why? Because early signs like fatigue, forgetfulness, or foot tingling are often mistaken for normal aging. A 2013 study in the New England Journal of Medicine emphasized that B12 deficiency is underdiagnosed, especially in the elderly, due to its subtle and slow-developing symptoms. The Oxford Project to investigate Memory and Aging Optima found that older adults with low vitamin B12 walked slower, had poorer balance, were twice as likely to fall within a year. In this cohort of 1,000 seniors, over 65 researchers also discovered significant shrinkage in brain volume among those with long-term B12 deficiency. Yes, actual brain shrinkage. That's how essential B12 is to healthy aging. Let me share a case I had last year. Helen, 72. A retired piano teacher from Oregon came in complaining of two things. Her legs felt wobbly and untrustworthy, especially on stairs. Her mind felt slower. She forgot words and often felt like she was in a fog. She wasn't depressed. No recent injuries. Her blood pressure and heart were fine. But she'd been taking omeprazole, a stomach acid reducer, for over 5 years. She also followed a low-meat diet and drank very little milk. Her lab work showed vitamin B12 at 198 pg/ml. The cutoff for deficiency is typically 200 pg/ml, but neurologic symptoms can occur well above that threshold. We started her on 1,000 mcg of methylcobalamin per day, sublingual under the tongue. By her second follow-up, her energy had returned. Her balance improved, and she told me, "Doc, I can carry the laundry basket down the stairs again without holding my breath." Why do older adults lose B12 so easily? There are several key reasons why seniors are more vulnerable. Reduced stomach acid with age. The body needs hydrochloric acid to release B12 from food. After age 60, acid production drops significantly. Use of acid-suppressing medications. Drugs like omeprazole, lansoprazole, or ranitidine, used for reflux or ulcers, inhibit B12 absorption. Medications like metformin, used for type 2 diabetes. Metformin has been shown in multiple studies, including a 2021 review in Diabetes Care, to reduce B12 levels over time. Low intake from diet vegetarians, vegans, and seniors who eat less meat, dairy, or eggs are often at risk, especially if appetite has declined or chewing becomes difficult. Gastrointestinal issues. Conditions like atrophic gastritis, Crohn's disease, or history of gastric bypass surgery significantly reduce B12 absorption. How much B12 is enough? The recommended daily intake for older adults is 2.4 mcg day, but that's only for maintenance, assuming perfect absorption. In reality, most seniors don't absorb well. That's why high-dose supplementation is often used for prevention and treatment. The most effective form is methylcobalamin, the active version your body can use immediately. I usually suggest 500 to 1,000 mcg day, taken under the tongue, safe for most adults, even at higher doses. May be taken indefinitely, especially if you're not absorbing from food. If someone has neurological symptoms, I'll recommend testing blood levels every 6 to 12 months to monitor recovery. Practical tips for seniors. Eat more B12-rich foods like eggs, beef, and chicken. Liver, one of the best sources. Fish, especially tuna, salmon, sardines. Fortified cereals and nutritional yeast. Take B12 supplements, especially if you're on acid reducers or metformin. Don't rely on multivitamins alone. Most only contain 6 to 25 mcg, which isn't enough if you already have symptoms. Now that you understand why these 3 vitamins matter, let's talk about how to take them the right way. For the best absorption, I usually recommend starting your morning with vitamin B1 and D3 right after breakfast, especially if your meal includes eggs, yogurt, or avocado. These foods contain healthy fats that help D3 absorb properly, and they pair well with B1 to support your energy early in the day. Then, around lunchtime, take your vitamin B12, ideally after a meal with fish, or something protein-rich like steamed tofu. Just one important note: try to avoid taking any of these vitamins with coffee or tea, since they can block absorption. And if you're using a multivitamin, be sure to check the label carefully to make sure the doses of B1, D3, and B12 are actually high enough to support nerve and muscle health. A little planning makes a big difference, and your body will thank you for it. Safety tips for taking B1, D3, and B12, especially for older adults. Before starting any supplements, it's important to know more isn't always better. These three vitamins are generally safe, especially for older adults, but there are still a few things to watch out for. Let's start with vitamin B1. It's water-soluble, which means your body flushes out what it doesn't need. So it's very safe even at higher doses, like 50 to 100 mg per day. Just make sure to take it with food to avoid mild stomach upset. And if you're on diuretics or metformin, talk to your doctor since those meds can deplete B1 over time. For vitamin D3, the key is balance. Most people over 60 need 800 to 2,000 IU per day, especially if they don't get much sun. But too much D3, like over 4,000 IU daily for long periods, can raise calcium levels and affect your kidneys. That's why it's smart to get your blood levels checked once a year, especially if you're taking other supplements with calcium or magnesium. As for vitamin B12, it's also water-soluble and generally very safe even in higher doses, like 500 to 1,000 G per day. If you have trouble absorbing B12 from food, which is common with age supplements, are a great option. But if you're taking B12 by injection, or have a history of nerve issues, it's still worth checking your levels from time to time. Also, one small but important reminder: avoid taking these vitamins with coffee or tea, especially within 1 to 2 hours. The tannins and caffeine can block how well your body absorbs nutrients. Water or juice is better. And finally, always let your doctor or pharmacist know what supplements you're taking, especially if you're on multiple prescriptions. It's the safest way to make sure everything works together. So if you've been feeling more tired, more unsteady, or just not quite like yourself now, you know it might not be just aging. It could be a simple deficiency in vitamin B1, D3, or B12. And the good news is, you can take control starting today. A few small changes in your routine can make a huge difference in your strength, your clarity, and your confidence. Don't wait for things to get worse. Talk to your doctor. Check your levels. Adjust your nutrition. Your legs, your brain, and your future self will thank you for it. And hey, if this helped you, or you know someone who needs to hear this, go ahead and like this video, share it with a friend. And don't forget to subscribe to Senior Life for more down-to-earth, science-based guidance to help you age strong, stay sharp, and live well every single day. Every 40 seconds, someone in the United States has a stroke. And every 3.5 minutes, one of them dies. That's according to the CDC. But what's more terrifying? Nearly 1 in 4 stroke victims had no prior symptoms at all, no warning signs, no second chances. That's exactly what happened to Mr. Thomas Reynolds, a 74-year-old retired firefighter in Wisconsin. He walked his dog every morning, ate clean, never smoked a day in his life. But last Tuesday, while trimming his backyard roses, he collapsed without a sound. His wife found him minutes later, unresponsive. The ER doctor confirmed it massive ischemic stroke. He never made it home. Thomas looked healthy. He was healthy. And yet it didn't save him. This is the chilling truth: stroke doesn't discriminate. And most people don't realize it until it's too late. So please, before we dive into today's critical video, make sure you like, share, and subscribe to Senior Life. This episode might just save a life, maybe yours, or someone you love. Right now, let's take a closer look at the 4 silent causes of stroke in older adults. The first cause: high blood pressure. High blood pressure or hypertension has earned its nickname the silent killer. And for good reason. According to the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention (CDC), over 122 million adults in the U.S. have high blood pressure. That's nearly 1 in 2 adults. Among adults aged 60 and up, that number climbs to nearly 2/3, yet less than 25% of them have it under good control. Here's where it gets more serious. Uncontrolled high blood pressure is the number one preventable risk factor for stroke, number 2 for heart attacks, and a leading cause of kidney failure and dementia in older adults. The American Heart Association, HA, warns that even a consistent blood pressure of just 130/80, once considered borderline, can significantly increase the risk of brain damage over time. Let me give you a case. Mr. Henry Jacobs, 70, from Michigan, came to my clinic last year. He hadn't seen a doctor in over 5 years. "I feel great," he said. "Just getting old." We ran a few tests and his BP came back 174/102. That's stage 2 hypertension. His only complaint, sometimes I forget words when I talk. Turns out he had already experienced multiple microstrokes, or TIAs, transient ischemic attacks, without knowing it. A study published in JAMA Neurology 2021 showed that high blood pressure in your 50s and 60s increases your risk of dementia by 62% in later life. The same study found that long-term exposure to elevated blood pressure shrinks the brain's hippocampus, the region responsible for memory and learning. Now, how exactly does high blood pressure do so much damage? Here's the breakdown, simple and clear. When blood pressure stays high over time, it creates constant force against the inner walls of arteries, especially the small, delicate ones in the brain, eyes, kidneys, and heart. That pressure slowly causes tiny tears in the vessel lining, which the body tries to repair with plaque. Over time, this leads to narrowing, clotting, and even ruptures. In the brain, this leads to ischemic stroke, blocked blood flow due to clots, hemorrhagic stroke, burst blood vessels, vascular dementia, slow decline in thinking, memory, and reasoning. In the kidneys, chronic kidney disease, CKD, dialysis dependence in later life. In the heart, left ventricular hypertrophy. The heart wall thickens from overwork. Heart failure. Now, the good news is, it's treatable. And for many older adults, it's even reversible with the right lifestyle changes. Let's talk solutions, practical ones that work for real people. 1. Dietary changes that make a difference. Oats plus flaxseed. A randomized trial in Hypertension Research 2020 showed that adults who ate 30 grams of oats plus 2 tablespoons of flaxseed daily for 8 weeks reduced their systolic BP by 9 mg/ml on average. Leafy greens like spinach, kale, arugula, and Swiss chard are rich in potassium and nitrates. They help blood vessels relax and lower pressure naturally. Beets high in nitric oxide. Beets help dilate blood vessels. A UK study in the Journal of the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics found that 1 cup of beet juice reduced systolic BP by 5.7 mmHg within hours. Greek yogurt, low-fat, rich in calcium, potassium, and probiotics. Several U.S. cohort studies show a 20% lower risk of hypertension among older adults who consume yogurt 3+ times a week. Unsalted nuts. Almonds, pistachios, and walnuts contain magnesium, a natural vasodilator. Hibiscus tea. A clinical study published in the Journal of Nutrition found that drinking 3 cups daily for 6 weeks lowered systolic BP by 7 points. 2. Lifestyle habits that help regulate BP. Walking after meals. Research from the American Journal of Hypertension shows that a 10-minute walk post-meal can reduce blood pressure spikes in seniors by as much as 15%. Breathing exercises. Deep breathing, 4 seconds, inhale, 6 seconds, exhale just 5 minutes a day can calm the nervous system and lower blood pressure, according to Stanford's Cardiovascular Research Institute. Drink water regularly. Dehydration thickens the blood, forcing the heart to pump harder. Most older adults should aim for 6 to 8 cups per day, unless otherwise restricted. Sleep quality. The Sleep Heart Health Study found that people with poor sleep under 5 hours, short night, were twice as likely to develop hypertension over time. I always tell my patients you don't need to overhaul your life overnight. But pick one habit. Start there. Add beets to dinner twice a week. Take a short walk after lunch. Cut back on salty processed foods. These small steps compound over time. The second cause of stroke: high cholesterol and atherosclerosis. A staggering 94 million American adults, nearly half of the adult population, have high cholesterol. But here's the kicker: most of them don't even know it. And for older adults, the numbers are even worse. High cholesterol, particularly high LDL, low-density lipoprotein, is one of the most underdiagnosed yet deadly threats facing older Americans today. You can't feel it, and it doesn't hurt, but it silently builds inside your arteries over years, often leading to sudden heart attacks or strokes. According to the CDC, about 38% of adults aged 60 and older have elevated LDL cholesterol levels. That means nearly 4 out of every 10 seniors are at high risk for plaque buildup in their arteries, a condition known as atherosclerosis. And let's not sugarcoat it, this isn't a small issue. The National Institutes of Health (NIH) reports that atherosclerosis is responsible for over 50% of all deaths in the U.S. related to cardiovascular disease, which is already the #1 cause of death in the country. Now here's how it works in plain language. When LDL cholesterol levels stay high, that excess cholesterol starts sticking to the inner lining of your arteries. Over time, it forms plaque, a hard, fatty buildup that narrows the artery and reduces blood flow. This process is what we call atherosclerosis. Sometimes that plaque cracks, and when it does, your body tries to patch it with a clot. If that clot completely blocks the artery, you get a heart attack or a stroke. Just like that. Ideal cholesterol numbers for adults over 60: LDL bad below 100 misor deal. HDL good, above 50 DL. Triglycerides below 150 DL. Total cholesterol under 200 DL. But here's the reality, according to a 2022 report from the American College of Cardiology. 71% of men over 65 have cholesterol levels above target. 63% of women over 65 are in the same boat. Only 1 in 3 older adults receive appropriate lipid-lowering treatment. That means millions are flying blind. Studies have consistently shown that dietary changes can reduce LDL by 15% to 30% even without medications. Oats rich in soluble fiber. A study in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition showed that consuming 3 grams of soluble fiber from oats daily can lower LDL by 5 to 10%. Avocados. A randomized trial at Penn State University showed that eating 1 avocado a day for 5 weeks significantly lowered LDL levels in overweight and obese adults. Fatty fish, salmon, mackerel, sardines full of omega-3s. According to the AHA, omega-3s help reduce triglycerides by up to 30%. Berries, especially blueberries and raspberries, packed with antioxidants that protect arteries from oxidative damage. Olive oil. Replace butter with extra virgin olive oil. It's shown to increase HDL while lowering LDL, according to research published in the New England Journal of Medicine. Walnuts and flax seeds. Both are rich in ALA, a plant-based omega-3, which helps reduce plaque formation. One study found that walnuts lowered LDL by 16% in seniors over 60. Lifestyle habits that lower risk: walk for 30 minutes a day. Just brisk walking has been shown to reduce LDL and improve HDL. A meta-analysis in sports medicine found that walking 5 days a week for 12 weeks lowered LDL by 8% on average. Get 7 to 8 hours of quality sleep. Poor sleep is linked to metabolic syndrome and cholesterol imbalance. Quit smoking, it drops HDL and inflames arteries. Manage stress. Chronic cortisol spikes from anxiety or depression can raise blood fats. Here's the scary part. Most people don't have symptoms until something serious happens, but subtle signs can show up. Fatigue even after mild exertion, chest discomfort or tightness, leg pain while walking called claudication, cold feet or hands, erectile dysfunction in men. If you've noticed any of these, get checked. The third cause of stroke, diabetes. I've practiced medicine for more than 3 decades, and if there's one thing I wish more patients understood, it's that diabetes doesn't just affect your blood sugar. It slowly harms your blood vessels, your brain, your nerves, and your heart. And in seniors, those effects can show up quickly, even without full-blown diabetes. When your blood sugar remains high for long periods, especially after meals or overnight, it creates chronic inflammation in your bloodstream. Over time, sugar molecules start to attach to proteins in your blood vessels, a process called glycation. This damages the lining of tiny blood vessels, especially the ones in your brain, kidneys, heart, and eyes. As those vessels weaken, they become more prone to rupture or blockage, increasing your risk of stroke up to 2x higher, heart attacks 1.8x higher, cognitive decline 50–80% higher, kidney failure, vision loss, diabetic retinopathy. That's why doctors now call it a vascular disease, not just a sugar problem. Over 38 million Americans have diabetes, CDC 2024. Another 96 million have prediabetes, and 80% of them don't know it. In adults 65 and older, 29.2% have diabetes. That's nearly 1 in 3 seniors. Diabetes is the 7th leading cause of death in the U.S., but it's massively underreported because most people die from its complications, not the blood sugar alone. The Framingham Heart Study, one of the longest-running health studies in the world, showed that seniors with diabetes had double the risk of stroke, even when their blood pressure was normal. And in a 2023 analysis from JAMA Neurology, older adults with diabetes had faster brain shrinkage and lower memory scores than those without diabetes, even after controlling for age, lifestyle, and medication use. You might think diabetes is obvious. Thirst, peeing a lot, weight loss. But in seniors, the signs are much more subtle. Watch for brain fog, mood swings, fatigue, blurry vision, slower wound healing, tingling or numbness in feet. A lot of my patients say I'm just getting older, but many times it's rising blood sugar, not age. Here's what you need to check: fasting glucose morning before eating, normal under 100 mg/dl. Prediabetic 100–125 di, diabetic 126 mg/dl or higher. A1C 3-month average. Normal under 5.7%. Prediabetic 5.7%, 6.4%. Diabetic 6.5% or higher. If your numbers are in the pre-diabetic range, that's your chance to reverse it before permanent damage sets in. Forget fad diets. Here's what science shows. Works steel-cut oats plus cinnamon high in soluble fiber. Cinnamon has insulin-mimicking properties. A Journal of Medicinal Food study found a 20% reduction in fasting glucose in type 2 diabetics, taking cinnamon daily for 8 weeks. Lentils and beans. The American Journal of Clinical Nutrition reported that eating legumes 4 times per week reduced A1C by 0.5% in just 12 weeks. Leafy greens loaded with magnesium, which helps cells become more sensitive to insulin. Greek yogurt unsweetened, rich in protein and probiotics. A study in Diabetes Metabolism Research and Reviews found that people who ate yogurt daily had 18% lower risk of type 2 diabetes. Apple cider vinegar diluted. Multiple studies show it helps lower post-meal glucose spikes by up to 30% when taken before meals. Berries, blueberries, raspberries, low glycemic index, and rich in polyphenols. They improve endothelial function, the lining of blood vessels. Lifestyle habits that help. Even in your 60s or 70s, walking after meals just 15 minutes can lower blood sugar by 20–30%, especially after dinner. Sleep at least 7 hours per night. Poor sleep impairs glucose metabolism. Don't eat carbs alone. Pair with protein or healthy fats to slow absorption. Stay hydrated, dehydration. Raises blood sugar. Limit added sugars to under 25 grams per day. That's about 6 teaspoons. Let me give you an example. George, a 66-year-old retired bus driver from Illinois, came in with an A1C of 6.4%. He wasn't ready for medication. We worked on his breakfast oatmeal with cinnamon instead of cereal, swapped soda for sparkling water, took a 10-minute walk after dinner. 3 months later, his A1C dropped to 5.8%, and he felt more energized than he had in years. The fourth cause: irregular heartbeat arrhythmia. I remember treating Mr. Calvin Mitchell, 74 years old, a retired firefighter from North Carolina. Strong guy, still mowed his own lawn. One afternoon he came in complaining of occasional shortness of breath and feeling off. We ran an EKG. It showed classic signs of AFib. His heart rhythm was completely irregular. "But Doc, my heart doesn't hurt," he said. That's the scary part. AFib doesn't always hurt, but it can still kill. Let's make this simple. In atrial fibrillation, your heart's upper chambers, the atria, don't beat properly. Instead of pumping blood effectively, they quiver or flutter. This leads to blood pooling, and when blood sits still, it can form clots. If a clot travels to the brain, boom. Stroke. And not just any stroke, AFib-related strokes tend to be more severe and more disabling, according to the American Heart Association. AFib affects nearly 6 million Americans, and that number is expected to double by 2030, according to the CDC. It's most common in people over 65 and affects 10% of all adults 80 and older. AFib causes about 1 in 7 strokes in the U.S. The risk of stroke is 5 times higher in people with AFib compared to those without. Many people with AFib, up to 1 in 3, are completely asymptomatic. That's right. You could have it and not even feel a thing. The most common symptoms are irregular or racing heartbeat, shortness of breath even when resting, fatigue that seems out of proportion to your activity, lightheadedness or dizziness, a strange fluttering sensation in your chest. But again, some people feel nothing at all. That's why regular checkups and pulse checks are so important, especially if you're over 60. Now here's the part that gives us hope. There are real practical steps you can take to support your heart and reduce AFib episodes. Let's start with nutrition. Bananas loaded with potassium, which helps stabilize the electrical activity of your heart. Avocados rich in healthy fats and magnesium. Fatty fish like salmon and sardines. Great source of omega-3s, which lower inflammation and help prevent rhythm irregularities. Leafy greens provide vitamin K and folate, both essential for heart health. Nuts like almonds and walnuts, high in magnesium, which may help calm erratic heartbeats. A 2021 study in the Journal of the American College of Cardiology found that people who ate a Mediterranean-style diet, rich in fish nuts, vegetables, and olive oil, had a 28% lower risk of developing AFib over time. Now let's talk daily habits. Cut down on caffeine. Too much can trigger episodes in sensitive individuals. Try herbal teas or decaf alternatives. Stay hydrated. Dehydration is a sneaky trigger. Aim for 6 to 8 cups of water a day, unless your doctor says otherwise. Prioritize sleep. Poor sleep raises cortisol and affects your heart rhythm. Manage stress. Deep breathing meditation or even 10 minutes of stretching can help regulate your nervous system. And please don't ignore mild symptoms. One of my patients, Susan, 68, from Arizona, thought she was just getting tired from age. Turns out she had been in intermittent AFib for months. We caught it early. She changed her diet, started walking daily, and avoided stimulants. Her episodes dropped dramatically, and she stayed off medication. Your heart, your blood vessels, your brain, they're all connected. And the truth is, conditions like high blood pressure, high cholesterol, diabetes, and AFib rarely show up alone. They work silently, and they often team up. But you're not helpless. Not at all. Every small change you make, every walk after dinner, every healthy meal, every mindful breath pushes back against these silent threats. So please, don't wait for a crisis. Start today. And if you found this video helpful, or know someone who needs to hear it, share and subscribe to Senior Life. Because staying informed is the first step to staying alive.